and was like, oh my gosh, you evil contractors, you just almost doubled the price of the job through change orders. Like, what's wrong with you? This is pretty much the biggest train wreck of communication I have ever had and the company has ever had. It was not the biggest financial loss, but in terms of the mental energy and time spent, it's just about close. And so this is a project that we started in the very end of 2022, drug out all the way through 2023, and then we are still dealing with it now. And this is a small dam rebuild that we got asked to bid on, and so by an engineer that we actually used to work with quite a lot. And it was about $152,000 project in the very beginning. This is, again, a small dam rebuild. And if you can paint the picture, it's an HOA. The developer had bought a golf course, and in one of these small little ponds that they had made, basically a really big dam down here, a little dam with a golf cart path going over it. And so there was a pool up here and then a larger pool down here. It had crested the road of that golf cart path a handful of times. The outlet pipe was all screwed up, and it was an old rotting timber wall that they had on the dam. And this thing, again, it's not super big. You get the picture. And so we were contracted to basically redo the asphalt, replace the railroad tie wall with gabion baskets, and then dredge the lake, and that was basically the job. And so we had bid to do that. We got the bid. As we started to go get the job, the very first thing that we noticed that we did not see the best in the beginning, the set of plans that we were given weren't even approved with the city in the beginning. And so normally when we get a set of plans from an engineer, they are approved. Maybe they're not permitted yet, but they're at least approved with the city. And so if whoever does go pull the permit can just walk down to the city and then not worry if the drawings are correct or have been approved by the city. You can just go get the permit and start the job. And so when we went to pull the permit on this specific project, we realized, oh my gosh, like these haven't even been approved by the city yet. This could change our whole bid. This could do a lot of things. We ended up talking to the engineer, and he's like, well, can you work with the city? Which is super lame, to be honest with you. He's the engineer. He needs to work with the city, get them approved. Should have been done way before the bidding even occurred. But anyways, we did that foolishly, in my opinion, and went back and forth with the city. We got the requirements they wanted. One of the requirements they needed was a cofferdam system, spec'd out to be actually through aquadams, which is basically a huge water-filled bladder that you can blow up and use as a cofferdam to block the water from the job you're working at. That ended up being, I believe it was like a $26,000 change order just to get the plans approved to get started. So the HOA is already pissed off at the very beginning of the project, and it looks like it's our fault from the beginning. We talked to the engineer. He assures us that that's not the expectation and that's not the thought, so we keep going. Cool. Getting into the project from the very beginning, we realized that the outlet pipe that is not spec'd out anywhere on the plans is going to need to be replaced. It's an old clay pipe. There was a thought that it could be used. That was a bad thought. We brought it up from the very beginning. Another thing we brought up from the beginning was the fact that the gabion walls were going to be too short. They were going to be too short because the sediment needed to be removed was much greater than originally anticipated. We needed a whole nother row of big gabion baskets, which is another big change order. And so all of these things coming up in the very beginning of the project, what ended up happening was we kept talking to the engineer about this, and he never really did anything about it. And then finally, when it came down to it and we got him out there and we're like, look, dude, this is how it has to be, or this is not going to work. And so he finally ended up writing a change order and talking to us about it, and then kind of ghosted us for a little while, and then out of the blue sends a brand new set of plans that's about I can't remember our exact bid, but it was about $120,000 of additional work to replace this outlet pipe, to add more gabion walls, do more dredging. All of this added up was almost double the cost of the original project, and we weren't even a quarter of the way done. Probably more like a third, maybe half at best, but that's a little bit of a stretch. And so all of that to say, the homeowners association turned right around and looked at us and was like, oh my gosh, you evil contractors, you just almost doubled the price of the job through change orders. Like, what's wrong with you? How did you not see that? How did you not? And then from our perspective, think about it from us. We just got a new set of plans. It's not the same ones. It's a different job. It is A is what we bid, and B is what they wanted us to bid. We bid both of them, and then they just slapped us in the face and said, what's wrong with you? And so they did not understand that the engineer was responsible for not seeing those changes, getting them approved in the first place, and then not communicating that that was their overlook on design. And because engineers do get paid to be right most of the time, it is very challenging to get them to admit to these people when they are wrong. And I do believe we work with a lot of humble engineers. That wasn't one of them. And so you fast forward down the road, the whole job stops. And to this day, we still have probably $40,000 or $50,000 of materials and tooling on that job site that we have not been able to remove yet, because we've been trying to come to a resolution with the HOA. And so they sent lawyer letters and threatening letters, and you need to finish the project for this cost. And they sent us demand letters to finish the project for the original $152,000 amount, because they're like, well, you should have known that was there. From our perspective, we bid the set of plans. It was a different job when they gave us the new set of plans. And so we bid that set of plans and then got slapped in the face and told us that it was our fault. I think a lot of that could have been avoided if we had actually met on site. We obviously did in the very beginning, but as things started to escalate, they got lawyers involved. And then that's now that this thing's drug out for so long, we would respond to them. They would take a month to respond. We'd respond. They'd take 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, whatever. And it just drags on and drags on and drags on. Mostly because we can't actually meet them face to face, look at them in the eyes, and then explain what the problem is. The engineer ended up pretty much exiting the whole picture. They moved down to Jacksonville, Florida to open up a branch there. We haven't heard from them since. And so we had other projects, probably $400,000 of projects with that engineer sold. We completely cut off all of that work, which is kind of a shame because I thought it was pretty good work. We just couldn't deal with that level of communication. And so what ended up happening, again, drags on, drags on, drags on. Where we are still at today is the original lawyer that was with us, working on the case in 2023 has left, and they've got a new one, and now they're confused, and it's just a whole mess. From the very beginning, if we had gotten these people on site, if we had double checked that the plans were approved, hindsight's always 20/20, but it would have saved us a lot of headache. And so we are upside down on the job. We're not $100,000 upside down on the job, but we definitely lost what we got paid for, at least in the first couple draws. And then we still have, that $40,000 or $50,000 of material that's still on the job site. And so I will say, to make a final point, with all of these things being said, that was a little bit on the smaller side to have an engineer, property manager, HOA board, all of those different people that are all communicating. But if you're going to do those kinds of jobs, you have to overkill the dog crap out of everything. I mean, it doesn't matter. Make no assumptions. Never make assumptions of anything, of what one person said to another person. Always take it on your shoulders to communicate what the expectation is and what your company is going to be fulfilling. And then also meet on site as much as you can. If you meet on site and they're looking at it, it's much easier to explain it to them than through lawyer documents and demand letters later down the road. And I think if we had done that a little bit better, then I think the problem still would have come up because it was from we're kind of set up to fail from the beginning. However, if we had done those things a little bit more diligently and been face-to-face more, I think it would have been easier to wrap their head around before they got lawyers involved. And so you can do big stuff, or if you can stack the deck with homeowner jobs and things like that, take that same mindset of communication to those jobs. But it just goes to show everybody wants to get into commercial, everybody wants to do big stuff, everybody wants to work on engineered projects and things like that. But once you do, it does put it into a little bit better perspective of how valuable it can be to have your simple, standard $5,000 to $50,000 homeowner job where they might have a lot of questions. They might be very innocent questions. They might be very pointy questions sometimes, but at least you get to talk to the person that makes the decisions and writes the check on a normal basis. You literally working at their house. And so there's no intermediaries that you have to go through. There's no just space between the person that's making the decision and the person that knows the answer. Those are all the people in the middle that cause the problems. And so if you can make money on those jobs, be profitable on those jobs, I would really hesitate to look at the big shiny object of, big commercial jobs and industrial work and things like that. Don't take it for granted what you've got. The jobs you're doing are probably good. Just do more of them, stay profitable, and I think it'll work out for y'all really well. So we still haven't resolved the job that I talked about. We're working on it, but I'll give you an update whatever happens. And if y'all have any questions about that experience, just let me know, and I'll be happy to do my best to answer. Peace.